Well, hello. Good morning, everyone. We are on Treatise on White Magic video commentary number 44 for the rules of magic on the astral plane. And this is perhaps, again, a shorter program. I'm having to simply fit these in when I possibly can. We've been studying the Temple of Ibez, and we've learned that even the Ibezan teachings continue today. In the teachings of the Brotherhood, they are somewhat different, but they are at least a continuation. And we have just reviewed the gradual progression through the third initiation and beyond, moving from the illumined mind, let's get that spelled correctly, the illumined mind into pure reason, and the transcendental mind, pure intuitive perception. Intuitive instinct leads to that. So there's been a great progress that has occurred since those very early days in the Brotherhood sponsored by Shambhala, found as it was in the middle of South America and now moved to Asia. And we find that the secrets of both of these places will simultaneously be revealed in the coming years. And there will be much about the Ibezan Brotherhood that is brought to light. So we've had 10 factors here, speaking of the Ibezan effort. And I think, we've done that perhaps sufficiently. It was 17 million years ago, and there were different ways of arousing the mind by direct incarnation or the implantation of the spark of mind, or by fanning the flame, as it were, fanning the flame of mind. It's very interesting that he says the spreading of the secret doctrine is 18 million years old, I guess, through these brotherhoods externalizing on the earth. Only 4 of the original propagators, instigators, remain with us speculatively: Sanat Kumara and the 3 Buddhas of activity, certainly Sanat Kumara. And he gives us, it was the outpost of the Shambhala fraternity. Just a little bit of review here, that the names IBEZ are an acrostic, and they deal with something we can't possibly know about. But these 4 letters are the first letters of the real names. And of course, when it comes to real names, we're really in the dark. Of the 4 avatars on the 4 globes of our Earth chain. And I suppose these would be globes 1, 2, 3, 4, as the developments on 5, 6, and 7 have not yet really come to pass. Their methods were different because man was crude at the time, but many of the principles have continued and are now taught. The door to initiation was opened even in Lemurian days, and I think it was pretty much the first initiation, but there was some attempt to bring the astral body under control. I think the astral body was very tied to the instinctual nature rather than becoming independent the way it did in Atlantean days, and distorted, we might say. He mentions 3 things about the low point in evolution of the man in that period. Excuse me, the intervention of the Black Lodge to confound things, and some thought forms which have to be destroyed, and how America is interestingly connected with those thought forms. He uses the word slaughtered. Whoa. It's very thorough form of death, but the general work of the Ibusan Brotherhood has continuity and is still persisting in what is now taught uh, by the Brotherhood today, uh, by the Trans-Himalayan School and other schools found particularly in Asia. So there is continuity. Okay. He talks about Atlantean days. The heart center was awakened, and the adepts of that period focused within the heart to meet the needs of the students. The love nature had to be stimulated, but now we're in the Aryan period, and in fact, we are focused in the mind. It is the illumined mind, and in the coming intuitive age, it will be pure reason, perception, etc., and that will be in the sixth root race. So I think we're ready now to go on. Excuse me. As I say, this will probably be a shorter program. I'll just do my best to grab time when I can to make these programs. We do seem to be just about 2/3 of the way through the book, which would be, well, it's very encouraging to me anyway. Anyway, DK says here, beginning on page 384, and this being the, let's see, this being the 6th of September. Right. These are words meaning but little or having at best only a theoretical significance to students in this group. I mean, what more can we expect? You know, we may have been there, but it's been a long time. And some of us weren't even there in Lemuria if we've come from the moon chain. And many of the students in the modern esoteric movement do come from the moon chain and have the sort of third ray, fifth ray general approach they will achieve in this period. But they're not part of the true Earth humanity. I'm sorry. It seems to be morning throat or something here. When I say to you that the will, which is transmitted through the medium of the controlled mind, is embodied in 7 types of energy, and to these 7 types, there are corresponding types of humanity, you say doubtless all that is clear and not so very difficult to grasp. Well, we're talking here, we are probably speaking of the root races. Yet, do you indeed understand? We're speaking of the 7 rays, 7 root races, and they have different types of rulerships. The 7th ray, I think, and the 5th ray were prominent in Lemuria, the 6th and the 4th in Atlantis, the 3rd and the 5th in Aryan times, and we're coming up to the 2nd ray and the 4th ray, I think, in the 6th root race, as well as the whole 246 line, really. So 7 types of energy and 7 types of responsive mentalities dependent upon the 7 ray types. DK, I think, is suggesting that we accept this, or that we are in the habit of accepting such statements as platitudes, but maybe without the depth of understanding we should have. In this statement, we note the differentiations of the soul aspect as grasped by the mind. So there are 7 types of souls, but really only one soul of humanity. These are the 7 differentiations which take the place of the multiplicity of differences into which the form aspect falls. always there is an ascending simplification. And as we move towards hierarchy and then towards Shambhala, a great simplicity is seen to take over from the incredible diversity which the lower mind seems to perceive. They are, these seven, nevertheless distinctions and differentiations, and persist in their hold over man until the third initiation. Well, that's interesting. Of course, there are still ray types regarding the monads, and there is a continuation, I think, of soul ray types, even up to the fifth initiation, as we're speaking of the rays of the spiritual triad, really. But at least they don't have the hold. The conditioning hold is what we're talking about here. So the conditioning hold is that of which we are speaking. There is a greater freedom after the third initiation. By them, these seven, he is swept into certain major activities and life tendencies according to his particular ray, swept, driven, impelled, So sometimes when you're talking to a person on a different ray, you just wonder about the conclusions they've come to, and they wonder about yours, because the experiences have been very different. These are mental distinctions. All souls on the mental plane take the forms of the solar angels, of the divine sons of mine. Now that's an interesting statement and important. The form of the egoic lotus is in a way a solar angelic form. I think I'll put that in here. The form of the egoic lotus is molded by the substanding solar angel. And so is very related to the RTD, to the solar angelic form. Okay, substanding, that's an important word. And would just like to add it to the dictionary. Okay, so the part of the solar angel, maybe a greater part, remains on its own plane, which is at least the Buddhic, remembering that these angels, as human beings, have been to the cosmic astral plane, apparently, for training on Sirius. So they have fallen into the cosmic ethers, and through their own projection of a portion of their energy and presence have fallen still further into the dense physical body of the solar logos. So hence we have these groupings, and hence the focusing of the energies through which the plan of the ages works out through seven main departments, seven ashrams with seven great tasks according to the ray involved. But at a certain point, a ray becomes a limitation, even though, again, as the kingdoms are changed and as new creative hierarchies are entered into, again, we have ray differentiations, just as we have with the planets and presumably with solar logoi and presumably with ones about whom naught may be said and so forth. So this sevenfold differentiation goes through a kind of a latency period in the development of man, but resumes again with differentiation when we're dealing with still higher beings. At a later stage, when certain great transitions in consciousness have taken place and the form has lost its hold, even these divisions disappear, and the plan is seen as a whole. The life is known in its essential oneness, and the term monad begins to have some real significance. Well, I think we go through, we've talked about those ascending figure eights, and how they divide, and then the two parts reunite and then divide again and reunite and so forth. So we're talking about when we're dealing with any particular creative hierarchy, there comes that time of impending union and disengagement from differentiation. Disengagement from differentiation. Yes. Okay. And then again, when the hierarchy is changed, or there's an ascent of the present hierarchy and it develops a new name, let us say, differentiation occurs again. Okay. Great transitions in consciousness. These are another name for initiations. So the form loses its hold, let's say this way. Form, loses its hold as differentiation loses its hold. And differentiation, though noted, is lost in a growing oneness, or a growing consciousness of oneness. The oneness is always there. It's just a question of whether we are conscious of it. Students must always remember that all distinctions and categories are mental productions and are due to the modifications of the thinking principle and to the control of form by mental energy. This is so important. And that's why the mind can be considered as the slayer of the real. The real is seamless. The real is one. The real is one thing. The real knows no real boundaries. But under the influence of the dividing mind, the boundaries between isolated things or apparently isolated things are very much a part of the great illusion. And this ends as we move towards the kind of oneness that can be appreciated by each creative hierarchy. Always, I think, a higher type of oneness, more articulated in some ways and more inclusive. So this is something okay, let's see. Put this here, this is not a valid number, thank you. Okay, so to be remembered. Students must always remember that all distinctions and categories are mental productions. The mind is the great divider, but it can begin to synthesize too as we go to higher and higher aspects of the mind. For instance, the intuitive transcendental mind is a kind of synthetic mind, and it continues along that line. But the concrete mind is a very dangerous method of perception, because it really creates illusion through differentiation. So let's watch out for the production of illusion through the differentiations of the lower mind. Okay. As the central thinker of the universe, now that's the thought power of the universal logos, at least in the language I give it. As the central thinker of the universe works through the power of thought, the problem surmounting these distinctions and differences is well nigh insuperable until such a time as the aspirants comes under the control of the second aspect of divinity and passes out of the domination of the third or matter aspect. So under the second aspect of divinity, we learn that naught is but me. And the whole of apparent distinctions is overcome. Okay, distinctions. But up to the third initiation, even the second aspect, the aspect of love, implies duality, for it is inherent in love itself. The lover, and the loved, not yet seen as one. Ever there is the, am I reading this? Anyway, it came to my mind before reading it, so whatever. Ever the lover and the loved. Ever there is the lover and the loved, the desirer and the desired, the seeker and the thought. Well, we learn the seeker and the sought are one. We learn that in, let's see, where are we here? Let's seeker, sought, one. And this is in these wonderful stanzas. But let's see, I'll do it this way. Naught is but me. And maybe N-O-U-G-H-T is not the way to go. It isn't. So we'll do it this way. Naught is but me. And we will put quotations around it to get, and there we are. The seeker, I am the seeker and the sought. That's what it says of the sixth ray, I rest. These are marvelous little stanzas, and they all give that kind of introduction into the fusion that occurs through initiatory perception at the third degree. All right, so let's see here. Okay. Ever there is the lover and the love, the desire and the desired, the seeker and the sought are one, the seeker and the sought. It is only as the first aspect, that of energizing, unifying life, which sweeps all forms and all dualities into one great synthesis, is sensed at the third initiation, that the words I have here dictated cover any practical meaning or realization. Yeah. So that is such a climactic moment, that third initiation, because it does really bring in unity and oneness, and so much of, well, there is this underlying training that DK is offering. At first, it seemed he was only training students for the first and second initiation, but then he said also later that he was training for the third. And so much of what is difficult to comprehend can be comprehended when the third initiation is taken. So the second initiation becomes a second ray becomes a fusing and blending ray, and even the third ray can begin to fuse and blend, as we learn in the treatise on cosmic fire. But the first ray is the unifying ray. It is the ray which creates oneness out of diversity. So let me put that down. It is here the first ray which creates oneness from diversity, sweeping into synthesis, as it says, sweeping all forms and do all dualities into one great synthesis. Do we sometimes have that perception? I think it can come upon you, you know. Later it will be there, but before the third initiation is truly established, one cannot necessarily evoke that realization at will. Okay, so going on a little bit. Okay, let us simplify matters if we can by 3 clear statements. In them we will sum up the work the disciple accomplishes as he struggles with and masters the energies of the mental world, and much of much of this section has been on the mind. So work on the mental plane produces realization of duality. The disciple seeks to blend and merge the soul with its vehicle, and to do this consciously. Okay. He seeks to fuse them into a unity. That's the soul-infused personality, correct? He aims at the realization that here and now they are one. The unification of the self and the not-self is his objective. The first step in this direction is taken when he begins to cease identifying himself with the form and recognizes during this transitional period that he is a duality. So, first steps, this identification with the form. Then, the mind, rightly used, becomes a recorder of 2 types of energy, or of 2 aspects of the manifestation of the one life. It records and interprets the world of phenomena, usually the 18 lower subplanes we consider, or 21 subplanes. It records and interprets the world of souls, at least the higher mental plane, and then into the triad, the true ego. It is sensitive to the 3 worlds of human evolution. It becomes equally sensitive to the kingdom of the soul. Let's just say here that different aspects of mind are required for this type of sensitivity. It is the great mediating principle in this interim of dual recognition. This is the work of Mercury, the mediator. Later, the soul and its instrument become so unified and at one that duality disappears, and the soul knows itself to be all that is, all that has been, and all that will be. This is a great consummation, devoutly to be hoped. So this is the progress. Duality, the differentiation of the observer and the observed, and gradually a movement towards oneness, and then utter unification when the soul and its instrument at the 3rd degree become completely unified, maybe even at the 4th degree, we would say. All right, friends. Well, I would like to go further, but I see ahead that this fantastic Atlantean chant lies ahead, and it deserves its own program. So, what I'll do then is copy this, and I think we are on what page are we on? Okay, 386 is where we are. Okay. And this is number 44. Be a short program. And 384 to 386. And our day today is September the 6th. Okay. Just trying to keep from being lost here. And this is number 8. That was number 44. And we'll get rid of 381. All right. And then as we go on, we'll be dealing with commentary number 45. And we'll be working from 386 onward. And this ancient chant, which I find still extremely useful. He does say it has died out of use now. But okay. It still can be extremely useful, and that's why it has been given. So we have a progress within the perceiving mind. We have the need of the great synthesis when dualities are overcome. It's a bit hard to talk about when we're the captive still of perceptual duality, but that will end, and we're working on that, I do hope. Yeah. We have to go from this whole movement from differentiation to unity to oneness. This is the way we work. And I'll just make a note of that and then go on. So. We don't want that. And we don't want this. So what do we do here? We work from differentiation to unity to oneness. This is the progress. Okay. So, video commentary and right. Okay. Okay, friends, we will move on now and then get into this wonderful ancient Atlantean chant on our next program. Short program this, and let's assimilate the best we can. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye.